Hi, hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be reviewing my indie bookstore weekend with you guys. I'm not sure if any of you are aware, but the last Saturday in April is Independent Bookstore Day, and a lot of places try to make it into like a longer weekend or like a full week-long event. And I'm lucky enough to be in an area where we have tons of independent bookstores, so I decided to partake in part of an indie bookstore day crawl. It was going on in my area. So where I live, I'm between Seattle and Tacoma. And I really could have done either, but I felt like Seattle just had so many more bookstores in the area and places that I have been meaning to check out and wanting to return to again. So I ended up doing the Seattle Indie Bookstore Day event, and it comes with this cute little passport. I'm a big fan of how they kind of do their entire system, how you get a passport, you get your stamps, you get your deal, the kind of prize at the end of it is getting a discount at the indie bookstores if you complete the whole passport, but they also have a smaller prize if you only do part of it. So the way that this one's formatted is we have the cover page, and then on the inside is a big map explaining where all of the bookstores in the area are, because some of them are closer together, some of them are further apart, some of them are on the connecting islands. You need to take a ferry to them. It's super interesting, super cool, and just an overall really fun time. I don't know how some people get this done in a day because there's 33 independent bookstores on this list. So I only ended up making it to 10, and I'm honestly very proud of that. I will take it. I will take that as a win because 10 felt like a lot, and I didn't even do it in one singular day. I did 5 in one day and 5 in another day, and that's kind of how I got to the 10 that I got to. But we will touch base on the bookstores that I got to here in a bit. I figured I would go ahead and do a little bit of a haul component right now, show you the books that I got, and then I'm going to insert clips of the bookstores that I ended up going to, so that way you guys can kind of get a feel for them. I will be honest and transparent, some of those are not my cup of tea. They're not my particular taste, but I'm also of the mind that everyone is going to find an indie bookstore that is for them. So even if it's not my cup of tea, it might be somewhere that you see and think is an amazing place and you would love to check it out. So I figured that I would go ahead and include bookstores that are still not something I would usually enjoy, just to get my little stamp, and then also to kind of hype up those other businesses that I don't usually frequent. So let's go ahead and get into our haul. Okay, so to start off our haul, I'll start in chronological order. So the first book that I picked up is Summoned to the Wilds. I got this one at Beguiled Books. They're located in Pioneer Square, and they're some of my favorite people on this planet. So I realized that this book had come out a little while ago, and the first book in this series, Thrown in the Dark, is on my May TBR. So I figured I might as well go ahead and pick up the second one. I know I'm going to absolutely adore it. I'm super excited for it. So we went on ahead and picked this one up. The next book that I picked up is actually very much outside of my comfort zone, but I'm also very excited to have it and to read it, hoping to read it very soon for an upcoming video. But it is called Girl on Girl: How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves by Sophie Gilbert. And so this one is nonfiction, which if you know me, you know I do not do very much nonfiction at all. But I do know that this one talks about kind of, how society has pitted women against each other. And I find that topic extremely fascinating and super cool to just learn about. For the longest time, I was not reading any nonfiction at all. And then I started picking it up about, I'm going to say about 4 years ago, right as I was getting back into reading. And I picked up a couple of nonfictions, loved them, but I don't ever rate my nonfiction, mainly because I feel like it's not my place to rate anything like that. It's about something that is not made up. If you make up a story, I can tell you it's a good story or I can tell you it's a bad story. It's not made up. This is actual life. And I also really enjoy celebrity memoirs, and I'm also not going to rate those. So I'm hoping to get back into my nonfiction era, maybe this summer, and pick this one up very soon. I got this one at Arendelle Books, located also in Pioneer Square. I ended up taking the light rail over to Capitol Hill to hit up a couple of other indie bookstores that were on the passport, and this one I ended up picking up at Elliott Bay Books, and it is Play You For It. So this one is a sapphic sports romance between, I believe she's a tennis player and a journalist, a sports journalist. Basketball, maybe? Yes, it's basketball. She's a basketball coach and a journalist. And I thought that it sounded super fun, super cute. I really like that the cover is kind of the what are they called? The plays? like when they like mark up the chalkboard or whatever. I know nothing about sports, but I see them in like movies all the time. And I thought that was just super cute, super fun. And I always love a sporty sapphic romance. So I thought this one would be super fun. These next two I ended up picking up on a trip to Eagle Harbor Books out in Bainbridge Island. And so I got The Art of Loving You. This one's by Natasha Bishop, and it is the sequel to Only for the Week. And so in this one, we're following two of the friends in the friend group. We're following Danny and Micah, and they actually used to have a little bit of a fling going on, but it ended. And so when Danny's kind of like mentor and kind of advisor passes away, she sends her on a little bit of a quest, and she ends up having to ask Micah for help on this little side quest that she's going on. So I thought this one sounded super fun, super cool. It's also kind of a chunker. I was not expecting this book to be as big as it was, but I saw it and immediately was like, well, I loved Only for the Week, so we're going to get it. So that's why I ended up with this one. And then this other book was a new release the week that I ended up doing the Indie Bookstore Day Challenge, and it's Death Meets Cute. So in this one, we are following our FMC, who I believe wants to be a villain. I think her name Iris. So Iris wants to be bad, truly bad. And so she ends up, I guess, meeting an orc. He's an orc. He falls into her yard, and she thinks he's going to be a great like accomplice to her villainy bad girl ways. And he ends up being sweet and cute and adorable and liking to bake. So I think this is going to get me also into a cozy mood, and it just looks super fun and super cute. So I picked this one up as well. So overall, we did not do as much damage during Indie Bookstore weekend as I was expecting to do. But also, I'm very proud of myself that I did not do that much damage, because that means I can do damage like other times. Like I can just buy books whenever I want. But I'm really glad that I got to hit up a lot of local indie bookstores in my area. And like I said, I'm going to be going over the bookstores that I went to here in like another clip. I'm just going to insert like the B-roll and do a little bit of audio over it. So that is the main portion that I wanted to touch base on now. And we can hop into kind of what those bookstores look like, sound like, feel like, all of the fun things, and give you a peek into some of my favorite places to go and places that maybe are not for me but could be for you. We started off our day at Island Books. I absolutely adored everything in the store. I didn't feel much inside, but their vibe is very like vintagey. They have these cute little typewriters that are kind of a recurring motif in the bookstore. And next we made our way down the way to Beguiled. Again, another one where I couldn't film a ton inside, but I'm absolutely obsessed with everything in there. They specialize in romance books, so you can find every subgenre of romance you could possibly think of, ranging from contemporary to LGBTQ. They also feature blind dates with a book, which I saw a couple of, but none that really spoke to me at the time. But like I was saying, they have romantasy reads. They have a really great selection of historical romances as well, and a bunch of trinkets to go along with your romance reads. So they have book sleeves, they have candles, all kinds of things, notebooks, they have chocolates, accessories. I even saw some really cute like greeting cards that I thought were very funny and kind of romance book themed, which kind of adds just like a nice touch. If you're getting a gift for a friend and you know they like romance, you can give them something they like. Next up was Open Books Poetry Emporium. This one is exclusively poetry books, also located in the Pioneer Square neighborhood, just down the way from Beguiled Books. And they have so many poetry books to offer, tons of different like genres of poetry. I didn't really factor in that there would be different types of poetry, and I just kind of assumed they were all the same. They offer new and used books at the same time, so it's kind of nice too if you're just a newbie in poetry like I am and you don't really want to invest in a bunch of expensive poetry books for your collection. You can pick up a used poetry book and just kind of dip your toes in. Next up was Arendelle, and they were also in the Pioneer Square neighborhood. I really enjoyed this bookstore. As we kind of like are waiting outside, some of the girlies are taking pictures at the door, but I really just like the vibe of this one. They sell so many different genres. Immediately after I walked in, I immediately found a cat section. They have an entire section of books relating to cats, which, I mean, if you know me, I'm obsessed with cats, so it absolutely worked out in the bookstore's favor that I knew that this was going to be a place I was going to have a good time. I also immediately found the romance section, and that was super fun. I really enjoyed kind of comparing the different romance sections at these different bookstores, but I really enjoyed the one at Arendelle, even though it was small. I feel like they had all the heavy hitters. I thought it was kind of funny and ironic that they put it next to business and law, as the two sections that are kind of like right there adjacent to it. They had a bunch of different nonfiction texts, and they were kind of broken up in different ways. They had biology and math and sociology and psychology all together. And then we kind of get into the mystery thrillers as well as the sci fi fantasy books all together in this little corner. And then I had to take a quick moment to appreciate the architecture of this building. I just absolutely adore the way that this bookstore kind of highlights their ceiling and lets the really impressive architecture of the space kind of speak for itself. They're not really doing anything wild or crazy. They're just letting the ceiling be insanely gorgeous and pretty, and everyone can come in and admire it. All right, after a quick little light rail train ride to the Capitol Hill neighborhood, we ended up at Elliott Bay Book Company. We walk in and you're immediately greeted with the kind of new release section. They also have a very big section in the front of like Pacific Northwest books, which I thought was really awesome and really interesting that they are able to kind of highlight um, things that are important like locally for people who maybe live in the area and just don't get out and explore much, or if you're new and visiting, you can pick up a quick little like field guide to kind of navigating, maybe if you want to go on a hike while you're staying here. I've been to this bookstore a couple of times. It's been a while since I've been, but I did notice these like pins up on the wall that I had never seen before. So I decided to take a quick little video of all of these pins since I thought they were super cool and I was just really intrigued as to what they were about. There was also a ton of dogs. I fully forgot to mention at the beginning of this that I ran into a dog at every single store I went to, and I have no regrets. Another thing that they did here at Elliott Bay is they also have a huge staff recommendations section as well as a popular like bestsellers in the store selection. So they highlight all of these books that not only do their staff like highly recommend and have read, but they're also telling you what other people in the community and in the neighborhood are also reading. And I thought that that was really awesome that they're kind of organizing their books in a way to, push forward the books that they're really like hyping up and really loving right now. And you can see from a lot of these little cards, I try to get pretty close to them, but obviously the writing on them is so tiny. You can tell that the employees that are making these little cards, and you'll probably see it here in a little bit when I go to the romance section. They really, really care about putting like all of the things that you're going to want to know on these cards, but also they want you to know like these books are like good and fun. Like you can tell that they care about these books. You can tell they're hyping these books up by how much attention to detail they're putting on those little shelf talkers. Another thing that they did is they had these cute little photo op backdrops just hanging around. So if you were feeling so inclined to take a picture, you could take a picture there. But here are those romance shelf talkers I was telling you about. How it is just all of the major important things that you would want to know about these books, while also featuring, like how much these booksellers really care about these books, really hyping up how interesting these books are. You can tell that these employees who are reading these books, who are recommending these books, really truly want you to know that you're like signing up for a good time in these romance books. And I thought that was super fun how like into the little talking cards that they got. This next store is Saltwater Books out in Kingston. With this one, I loved the way that they organized their books. They had a big nonfiction section next to a corner dedicated to Indigenous people based books. They featured adult books about Indigenous people and Indigenous culture, but also children's books about those same topics. And I thought that was really refreshing and nice to see, where it's a way to like educate your kids when they're still young. They also had a really interesting little like corner back room area that's kind of dedicated to more children's toys, trinkets, games, puzzles, those kinds of things. I also had a section about like gardening, plants, that kind of thing, and what kind of books you might reach for if you're having questions about your garden. They also had a little section about wildlife, which I did not see coming. It features books, again, of all ages, kind of going over what wildlife you can expect to see up here in the Pacific Northwest. They also had a really extensive mystery thriller section, which I'm a pretty big fan of, having just a lot of options in that genre, as well as a pretty good romance selection. I would say their romance selection was a little bit more of a basic one. It's a little bit smaller compared to a couple of other sections that I came across, but they also sold really fun and cute greeting cards, which I didn't realize how many bookstores are selling greeting cards until going to like 10 bookstores in a week. They also have a really extensive fiction section. You can see all four of those big shelves, top to bottom, are full of fiction books, which I thought is really nice to have all of those options in the fiction genre. The next store that I pulled up to is in this amazing shopping center in Bainbridge Island. Is Eagle Harbor Books, and they have just the cutest little corner store that goes so far back into that building. Like, I don't think the initial shot of how far you have to walk to get to the door does it really justice, but they have these insane huge windows in the front where they highlight a lot of new releases and staff picks. They also usually try to have a little bit of a theme going on with their windows as well. All right, you first walk in and then you're kind of greeted with some like tchotchkes, some like trinkets, a couple of candles, as well as like PNW local authors, which I also thought was really nice. A lot of these bookstores have a section dedicated for local authors, but it's not usually very big or super close to the front. So where Eagle Harbor has theirs, I really appreciate and really love. You can see a couple more little tchotchkes. They're usually like tea and kitchen themed. And then here are some tables with some new releases. I like that they put their paperbacks with paperbacks and hardcovers with hardcovers. So if you are a like paperback girly, you can just go to the new paperback table and get the books that you want. I also want to highlight their romance and romantasy section. I was not expecting it to be quite as big as it was. I've been here before in the past, but most of the time I just go to the new release section up in the front. This is closer to the middle back of the store, and this store just keeps going. It honestly feels like a Hallmark store plopped itself in the middle of a bookstore. You'll see that here in a little bit when you see kind of the other things that they sell, but they have a really amazing fiction section as well. And also their kind of like mystery thriller section is kind of like on the opposite side of the romance romantasy wall. They also, on the other side of that kind of little hallway, have their sci-fi section, which was huge. I, again, was not expecting them to have as big of a sci-fi section as they do. I would think fiction's usually the biggest section in most of these independent bookstores, but I think their fiction section was like half the size of the sci-fi and fantasy sections combined. I was like, that is so much sci-fi, so much fantasy. I love it. And here's what I was getting to about how it feels like there's like a Hallmark store in the middle of this, because there's just so many like notebooks and tote bags and cards and all kinds of things. The next bookstore that I got the chance to go to in Paulsbo, Washington is Liberty Bay. And so this one is also in the corner. It's kind of in the little Norway kind of shopping center area. I didn't get too many videos inside of this bookstore, mainly because it is so much smaller. They decorate it impeccably. As you can see, they have this super awesome tree, as well as these super awesome like paper lanterns, and some of them are shaped like fish. I don't think that reads very well in the video, but when you see them in person, they look like fish, which I thought was super fun and super cute, especially being on the water. Next up is Away with Words. I absolutely love their window display. And if Eagle Harbor is like a Hallmark store in the middle of a bookstore, Away with Words is definitely like a Bath and Body in the middle of a bookstore. They had so many extra fun things themed around like bath products and like self-care products. I absolutely love their sticker selection, but I also love that they offered like used books in this kind of little like smaller section as well. And here is a kind of like pan overview of a lot of their fantasy book sections. They also do a local author feature as well. And then here's a shot of the last bookstore that I went to, and this one is Ballast Book Company in Bremerton, Washington. I really enjoy this bookstore. I do try to come in here semi regularly just because Bremerton is kind of a place I go for work a lot. But they offer YA, middle grade reader, children's books as well. They have a pretty extensive foreign language collection as well that I didn't get to film. But their mascot is a dragon. So a ton of the merch that you can get at Ballast Book Company is dragon themed. And I just think that is so fun and so cute. And this kind of wraps up my little tour of all of the indie bookstores that I got to go to on this expedition in my neck of the woods. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your day to talk about some of my favorite indie bookstores in my area. Well, if you make it to the end of the video, go ahead and leave the chipmunk emoji, kind of like this little squirrel chipmunk guy who's reading on my Seattle Indie Bookstore Day passport. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye. In today's video, I'll be reviewing my indie bookstore weekend. I don't think I like how I said that. And the first book that I picked up was Summon to the Wild. Okay. How pop culture turned. I'm trying to read in the viewfinder, and that's not going well. Where did I get this one? I already forgot. Oh. And I almost forgot to mention I got this one at Arendelle. Yes. This next book that I picked up was actually at, oh God, what is it? Elliott Bay. Yes. This next book I actually picked up at Elliott Bay in no, they're not in Pioneer Square. Cap Hill. Okay. This next book I ended up picking up in, I'm going to set it down. If you make it to the end of the video, go ahead and leave, oh my gosh, which emoji should you guys leave? Go ahead and leave the bear emoji because there's a little, oh my God, I already put the passport away. Why did I do that? Is he a bear? He's a squirrel. Is there a squirrel emoji? Let me look at the animals. Be right back. Wow, there isn't even a squirrel emoji. Okay, well, that's very rude.